Okay, so we're talking about ordering rational numbers. Yesterday we just talked about percents and decimals. Now we're kind of going to add fractions to the mix. So the first thing we need to talk about is how a fraction bar is one way to represent division. Okay, that fraction bar in the middle of a fraction actually means divide. So this can be used to convert or change a fraction to a decimal by dividing the numerator, or what's on top, by the denominator, what's on bottom. Okay. So for example, if I have A over B, that is A divided by B, or if I write it how you set up division, A is on the inside, that's my dividend, and B is on the outside, my divisor. Okay, so with 3/4, that's 3 divided by 4, so 3 is on the inside, 4 is on the outside. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to convert some from fractions to decimals using division. So for this one, I have 1 divided by 2. So when I set that up, I put 1 on the inside, 2 on the outside. Now, what you have to remember, 2 cannot go into 1, right? So I'm going to erase that and rewrite it. Two can't go into 1 because 1 is smaller, right? So when we're doing long division and our divisor can't go into our dividend, we add a decimal and a 0. Now we look at it as 10. So I put a 0 up here because 2 goes into 1 0 times, right? 2 goes into 10 5 times, and there's nothing left over, right? So 1/2 as a decimal would be 0.5. Okay. So these are some that we should be able to actually, these are common ones you're going to see. 9/10. Well, just think about the way that is said, tenths. So right off the bat, I should know that that is 0.9 because that first place after the decimal point is the tenths, right? But if I set it up with division, I'd get the same thing. 10 can't go into 9, so I add a decimal and a 0. 10 goes into 90, 9 times. Okay. 2/3. This one's going to be kind of a special one. So when I set this one up, I have 2 divided by 3. 3 can't go into 2, so again, I add my 0. That's going to be the case. Unless you have an improper fraction, you're always going to have to add that decimal and 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 18. 2 left over. Add another 0. Oh, hey, it's 20 again. Okay, that's just going to keep happening. So 2/3 as a decimal is actually written as 0.6, repeating with that repeating bar over the top. Okay, we use the repeating bar because if I kept dividing, I would literally keep getting 6 over and over and over and over and over again for literally ever. Okay, it would never change because every time I'm going to have 2 left over, put a 0, and I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Okay, so we call it a repeating decimal when we put that line over the top. Or like if we were typing something, you would put like however many 6s and then ... So that ... tells you it's going to keep going. Okay. Now we have an improper fraction. So I have 7/4. So I divide 7 by 4. 4 goes into 7 one time, right? 1 times 4 is 4. We have 3 left over. Now I add my decimal and my 0. 4 goes into 30 7 times. With 2 left over, add another 0, bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So this one as a decimal is 1.75. Notice this is an improper fraction. My number on top is bigger than my number on bottom. That's why I have a number in that ones place. That's why I have a whole number along with my decimal. Okay, so now we're just going to set them up. 3/5 would be 3 divided by 5. So when I set it up, 3 on the inside, 5 on the outside. Verbal description, just how do you say that? 3 divided by 5. Okay, so 5 divided by 4 would mean that 5 is on top, so it's 5/4. 5 is on the inside, 4 on the outside. 5 divided by 4. Okay, this one, they gave it to you set up. So I have 1 on the inside, so that's 1 divided by 3. You could do this in any order, really. So 1 divided by 3, which means, remember, we divide our numerator by our denominator. So 1 is my numerator, 3 is my denominator. 3 divided by 2. So 3 is my numerator, 2 is my denominator. Okay. Fractions can be placed on a number line just like decimals and percents. I'm going to make that smaller. Or make it so it fits better. Okay, they can be placed on a number line or converted to a decimal to help order them. So it's a lot easier if all of your numbers that you're trying to order are written the same way. Or even if you have a bunch of fractions like we do down here, that they're all written as a decimal, because when they have a different denominator, like here I have fifths, fourths, tenths, I have all these different denominators, so it's hard to compare them when they're not split into the same size sections, right? So if I make 2/5 a decimal, I do 2 divided by 5, and get 0.4. Okay, 3 1/4 would be, or negative 3 1/4, sorry, negative 3.25. Okay, so there's going to be certain decimals that you're just going to, and fractions that you're just going to want to know. Fourths is one of them. So think of it with money. A fourth of a dollar is 25 cents, right? So a fourth of a whole is that 0.25. Okay, 2 1/10. So 2.1, because remember, 1 divided by 10 would be 1/10. 2 3/5. So again, I know my whole number is going to be 2. I'm not going to worry about doing that, but I do 3 divided by 5. 5 goes into 36 times, so it would be 2.6. Then negative 2 3/4. Okay, if 1/4 is 0.25, then 3/4 would be 0.75. Again, think of it like money. Okay, so now I can place all of these on the number line pretty easily. So I have 0.4, so that's very close to being, it's between 0 and 1, right? So it's going to be like right there, because it's not quite 0.5, it's not quite a half, but it's close. Negative 3.25, so I go down negative 3, and then 0.25. Okay, 2 1/10, so that's just over being 2. And then 2 3/5, which is 2.6. So right here, and then negative 2 3/4, negative 2, negative 2.5, negative 2 3/4. Okay, so I have A, B, C, D, and E. By putting them all as decimals, it helped me be able to see where they each need to go on the number line so that I can order them and compare them a little easier. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next page. All right, so fractions can also be compared using like denominators. So that bottom number, when they have the same denominator. So in order to do that, you have to find the least common denominator. So the least common denominator shouldn't be something completely new, but we'll talk about it. Okay. You rename the fraction or rewrite it, right? With that least common denominator. Then you put the fractions in order and write, the important thing here, when you are ordering rational numbers, whether it's fractions, percents, decimals, however it is, when you actually go to order them, or put in your answers or whatever it is, or write them as your answers, you want to write the original way it was given. So even if you convert it to decimals or change the fractions so they have the same denominators, however you do it, you still want to write your answer in the way that it was given originally. Okay, So let's look at number 6. We have 11 twelfths, 2/3, 5 6, and 1/4. All of them have a different denominator. I want to find their least common denominator. So to do that, I need to figure out my multiples of each number. So if I list out my multiples, I have 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, well, I'm going to stop because 12 is also right here. So maybe my other numbers also go into it. So then I'm going to do my 4s. 4, 8, 12. Oh, got that one too. 6, 12. Good, and then obviously 12. So my least common multiple is the first one that they have in common when I list out all of their multiples. So they all go into 12. So when I change them, 11 twelfths I don't need to change. That one's fine. 2/3, well, how many times did I have to count by 3s to get to 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I need to multiply it by 4 on top and bottom. So instead of having 11 or 2/3, I have 8 twelfths. Now 5 6, I counted by 6 2 times, so I have 10 twelfths. 1/4, I counted by 4s 3 times, so I have 3 fourths. Okay. Now I can place them in order from greatest to least. So the one that's closest to being a whole number is going to be my greatest, right? So 11 twelfths is bigger than the rest, so that's my greatest. Then 10 twelfths, but remember, you want to write it in the original fraction. So 10 twelfths was originally 5 6. Then 8 twelfths, which was originally 2/3. And then last but not least, 3 twelfths, which was originally 1/4. Okay, so I converted them so they all had the same decimal. Then when I rewrote them, I put them in their original fraction. I said the same decimal, same denominator, sorry. Okay, so here, my least common denominator is going to be 20, right? 5 and 4 are both going to go into 20, and obviously 20 goes into itself. So to get this one, I would do times 4. This one I would do times 5. And again, times 4. So I have 3 and 4 twentieths, 3 and 5 twentieths, 3 and 3 twentieths, and let's see, 17 times 4. 68 twentieths, which would be, I'm going to rewrite that as a mixed number, 3 and 8 twentieths, right? Because 20 goes into 60 3 times, and then there'll be 8 left over. So, greatest to least, well, clearly 8 twentieths is bigger than 3 twentieths, 5 twentieths, or 4 twentieths, so that's my greatest. So, but remember, write it as the original fraction, so 3 and 8 twentieths was originally 17 fifths. Then I look over, okay, 5 twentieths is the next biggest one, so that was 3 and 1/4. Then 4 twentieths, which was 3 and 1/5. And then last but not least, 3 and 3 twentieths. Okay. So when you're going between multiple kind of forms of rational numbers, so percents, decimals, and fractions, you want to make them all written as decimals so you can compare them easier. So remember, to change a percent to a decimal, you just move the decimal place over. So this would be 0.61. And then for the rest of them, it's either already a decimal or you divide the numerator by the denominator. So you're going to do 8, 9, 10, 11 on your own on the Google form.